What's up, everybody? Welcome into Buzzerbeater. Happy Thursday to you. Mick Miller, Jake McCleary here live on the Buzzerbeater. Jake, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. Obviously.
Oh, wait. I got you a Valentine.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Jake McCleary, I don't always want a Valentine, but when I do, I want you. Isn't that just fantastic? Well, the way we usually start our show is I usually end up apologizing. I apologize for throwing your Valentine thing away. But also, if you watched the show last week, I may have sabotaged some video, made Jake look a little bit ridiculous. So, Jake, I apologize sincerely. And to make it up to you, I found your video. So
thank you.
We'll make Jake look a little bit good because I am his Valentine. Let's look at the video that was supposed to be on Buzzerbeater last week.
Yeah, that's proof I have caught in a pass before, because I usually don't, but
yeah,
I had
that's
to
like
record
on
it.
the video that we had last week of you fumble fingers, butter fingers.
Yep.
But hey,
I caught
congratulations, you caught one.
I caught it
and,
just before the end of the football season. So.
Yeah, well, congratulations, Jake.
Thank you.
Now we can get into more serious things as we get into the show. Now we're going to start off our show with talking about golf. Now, golf is coming off the greatest year in BYU Hawaii history last year, in which they went to the NCAA tournament and finished 12th. Last week, tri-match tournament up in Turtle Bay. Jake, how did the Seasiders do?
Well, they did pretty good for the first, what is it, a match? Tournament?
Yeah, first tri-match.
Tri-match, that's what we call it. It's this whole cross-country all over again. But they did good. BYU Hawaii finished first. Nicholas Herrera and Alex Stolz both shot under par, and 4 of the 5 lowest scores came from the Seasiders, so excellent way to start the season.
Yeah, I play intramural basketball with a whole bunch of the golfers, and we'll get into intramural sports a little bit later. Dylan Dudley, coming off redshirting last year, he performed very well for the Seasiders. Now, they did lose Brent Grant, who was the Pac West Golfer of the Year last year, but talking with a lot of the golfers this year, they are very enthusiastic with the way the season is shaping up to be so far. They've got a lot of talented golfers, Dalton Stanger being one of them, him being one of the main leaders for this golf team. I think if they continue to play the way they played in that tri-match tournament, they'll go again to the NCAA tournament. Who knows? Anything can happen when you go to the tournament. So now we move on to softball, Jake. You were not able to make to the game, but I was there for the first game, missed the second game. But in the first game, the Seasiders, they lost 4-2 after going 2-0 on Western Washington. The Vikings came in to play BYU Hawaii with a lot of energy. And after the Seasiders went up 2-0, the Vikings stormed back and rallied and came away with the victory. In the second game, however, very competitive game. The Seasiders went into extra innings with the Vikings, but it was Western Washington who scored 4 runs in the 8th inning who came away with the victory. So in the first doubleheader of the year, the Seasiders go down 0-2. A very young team. They have a lot of promise. I think this year is a little bit challenging, kind of like all of our other sports. We did not have an opportunity to go out and recruit and get players who wanted to stay here for just one season because it's the last year of athletics. So that's something that they're going to run into. And as a result, there's not a lot of depth on this year's team, but a lot of good promise because Western Washington is a very talented softball team. And for the first 2 games of the season, we hung in there with them. All right, moving on. As the last year of athletics is upon us, we're looking at, who is the best team. But I can guarantee you there's only one team that will go down in BYU history as the best. That would be my intramural basketball team.
Okay. All right.
Well, how did you, speaking of intramurals, I mean,
Yeah.
these 2 guys on the TV screen are pretty good looking dudes. How did your team do last night? Because we both were in action, but
Last night.
I couldn't catch your game.
Yeah, so last night we were able to win in the quarterfinals, so next week will be the semifinals. It was a pretty tough game last night. We Had a lead in the beginning, but then we blew the lead, and actually the other team led with about 5 minutes left in the game. But we were able to come out with a 6 or 7 point victory, so we're moving on. And we play your team next week, but from what we were talking about earlier, it's not looking like you're going to be able to make it.
Yeah, well, the problem is I play with a whole bunch of the golfers, and they're not going to be in town. And we'll figure something out. But we did come away with the victory. We were down 18 at one point, came back and won by 16. So if we can figure out a way to get the whole team back in town for the game, Jake and I going at it to get a chance to go to the championship game. All right, Jake, best team in BYU Hawaii history. On a more serious note, it's not either of our teams. Who's one of your favorite teams in BYU Hawaii history?
Just looking. I'm going to have to go with tennis. They've won the most championships out of any sport in school history, and they have the Coach Porter, who's won the most winningest coach not only in school history but in NCAA history as well. So I'm going to have to go with tennis.
Tennis has definitely been one of the most dominant programs here at BYU Hawaii throughout history, along with what you said with Coach Porter. Volleyball also. They've got quite a few banners hanging in the CAC right now. I think the women's volleyball program, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s when they were completely dominant, not only in NAIA, but then when we made the transition into D2, one of the best programs here at BYU Hawaii. A lot of people are going to miss the volleyball program. And then also you got men's basketball. I think men's basketball back in 2011 was when they made it to the national championship game. They've always been extremely competitive, making strides in the Pac-West standings. And then there's been also a couple other programs as well that'll go down in history as being very exciting to watch.
Yeah, such as golf. Again, this season might be the best season that we've had in golf. Like we talked about earlier, they had excellent start to the season so far. And spring sports, the last time we'll see any athletics for the Seasiders. So hopefully golf can go with a championship too.
Yeah, it's been a little bit disappointing for most of the sports, but spring sports are the most promising. We'll take a commercial break, but when we come back, we'll start talking about our men's and women's basketball season as they wrap up the 2016-17 season.
I'm Fukutaro Sagayama. Please call me Fuku, which means happiness in Japanese. I have a dream. One day, I'd like to create people who have correct outlook of national history and politics. I'd like to make reform on Japanese politics in terms of education and international relations, especially with neighboring countries. When I was looking for university, I came to realize that how biased I was in terms of the understanding of national history and politics. To get rid of the bias, I decided to study abroad, and I chose BYU Hawaii because I can exercise ethical practice daily through learning more about gospel principle. I choose BYU Hawaii to make my dream come true.
Welcome back into the Buzzerbeater, Jake. Our teams are finally back in town, our women's and our men's basketball team. They took their talents to California. They were also in Utah for a little while. Let's get into women's basketball first. When we talked about the women's basketball team a few weeks ago, it was extremely promising, but we knew that they were going to have a tough road trip ahead of them, and man, did they ever. Seasiders unfortunately went 0-4 on the road trip. Starting the first game against HPU, you were actually there for that game, and then the next 3 games, I think you covered most of them. What happened?
It is basically exactly what we've talked about this whole season. Just in the fourth quarter, we seem to hang with every team until the fourth quarter, and then that's when the scoring stops. That's when defense kind of falls apart. I don't know if they're just getting tired or other teams step up and we just can't match the level, but it's just been fourth quarter performance that has caused all these woes for the Seasiders.
I think one of the main things is teams, especially when you get halfway through the season and as you work your way to February and the end of March, every team wants to play in March. They don't call it March Madness for nothing. Every team wants to be able to perform in March when the lights get the brightest. And one of the things that teams do is they make adjustments. In my opinion, the biggest adjustment that teams have done against us this year is they've made Sophia Scheich the focus of their defense. They've figured if they can stop her, they can stop almost everything that goes along with our offense. Because Sophia not only is our best scorer, and at one point she was in the top 5, maybe the top 3 in scoring in the Pac-West, and then every team made the adjustment to stop her, and our offense has suffered as a result of it.
And then like I agree with that. Teams have scouted out Safia and they've stopped her. But last game against Concordia, one bright note is her sister Mayan, she gets her points every game, but usually not as much as Safia. But last game, I believe she had like 8 3-pointers, so she was able to step up. But unfortunately, again, in the fourth quarter, that's when things kind of fell apart and they did not get the win. But Mayan has been performing well in the past couple games.
And I think not only for women's basketball, but we talked about this with every single sport here at BYU Hawaii. I remember talking about it repeatedly, especially with soccer, is that you have to be able to perform on the road. And the men's team, they struggled on the road as well. They went 0-4. They're losers of 4 straight. You obviously live with your brother, you live with Tanner and Juhan, so you have a different perspective as to what kind of happened, and you've spoken with them since they've gotten back. Yeah. What did they tell you about this 4-game losing streak on the road?
Well, against Dixie, that's a game that's, a rival of BYU Hawaii, and so a lot of family was there, and we played well. We were up by 7 at half, but then, again, same as the women's, as the game goes on, gets nearing to the finish, that's when they kind of fall apart. I don't know if it's fatigue or just whatever, but finishing games has been a problem. But they did go 0-4 on that road trip, and now we're on a 4-game losing streak. They got one more road game, and then they got 4 at home to end basketball here at BYU Hawaii. It's not looking like they're going to make the tournament. Unfortunately, they'd have to get extremely lucky and play extremely well. I actually don't even know if it's possible right now for them to make the tournament, but I'd say the next focus for them would be those 4 home games just to go out with a win.
Well, UH Hilo came into the CAC. That's their next game. Their last road game will be over in Hilo. They came in here and they kind of dominated us from the start. Expect them to go to Hilo with the motivation to not only end this series with a win, but also start some momentum for the next 5 games. I think we're currently in second to last place in the conference. So if we win the next 5 games, because there's only 5 more games left, I think if even all the number 5 and the number 6 team in the Pac-West Conference, if they all lose out, I still think there's not a way for us to jump in. So obviously, you're kind of in a hard position, but at the same time, you've got players who want to continue playing. You've got Tanner Nelson, who has talked about how he wants to go to a different school and continue his basketball career. So a lot to play for the Seasiders. And actually, I was able to sit down with Tanner Nelson in a Seasider spotlight. So let's take a look at my conversation with the starting shooting guard for the Seasiders. What's good, Sider Nation? Welcome into the Seasider Spotlight. I'm your host, Mick Miller, joined with Tanner Nelson. Tanner, how you doing?
Doing good.
Ready for these 10 questions?
I think so.
I hope it goes a little bit smoother than what Dee and Jake did.
My name's Megan. Sorry.
But we'll see how it goes. In the last game against Azusa Pacific that was on BYU TV, you led the comeback for the Seasiders and hit a big game winner. Was that the biggest shot that you've ever hit in your career, and what did it feel like to hit that shot?
That was definitely the biggest shot I've ever made, and kind of felt like I was going to pass out afterwards when I sat down on the bench on that timeout right after. I felt like I was on cloud 9.
Yeah, I talked to Jake, and he was talking about how you were trying to channel your inner Damian Lillard. Talking about Lillard and the Trailblazers, are they going to make the playoffs this year?
Of course.
I mean, they're in the 10th seed right now.
They got a chance. They always have a chance with the Blazers.
What do you think they need to do to turn things around? Because currently I think they're in the 10th or the 9th seed right now, and they got to sneak into that 8th or 7th spot.
Yeah. Well, they got to win some more games. They got to play defense. They give up so many points every game. It's ridiculous.
I can imagine Damian Lillard's one of your favorite players, but what player in the NBA do you model your game after?
Well, I think now I try to go for CJ McCollum. With his mid-range, he shoots a bunch of jumpers and stuff, and that's really what I do the whole time in the game.
Okay.
So I'd say CJ McCollum.
All right, now let's start to get into who Tanner Nelson is. You're driving to the stadium. What are you listening to get you pumped up for the game?
No music. I don't like listening to music before games. I don't know why everyone likes music before games. I just do my own thing.
So you just sit there in silence?
Yeah, I just think, get ready for the game.
All right, now when practice is canceled, I mean, this rarely happens, but the few times that it actually does happen, where does Tanner Nelson go on Oahu to have some adventures and let off some steam?
Any cliff jumping spot possible, either spitting caves.
We've had some experiences there, haven't we?
Yeah, we have some experiences spitting caves. Any cliff jumping spot. My mom doesn't like it, but
you got to do it for the gram.
Yeah, we do it for the gram every time.
All right, now this might cause a couple problems on the men's basketball team, but I have to ask it. Who is the strangest member of the men's basketball team?
I'd have to say my boy Justin Park. He's an interesting guy, but I love him to death.
Can you cite an example of something that he does that kind of weirds everybody out?
Well, last year he wore Crocs around everywhere, and even on all our road trips, my coach hated it.
What are those?
All right. Obviously, at college, one of the big things is Netflix. You don't like music, so I don't know why I'm asking this question. What is your Netflix must-watch right now?
Oh, easily Vikings. It is the sickest series right now. It's not on Netflix though, it's on Amazon Prime only.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out how to watch part 2 of season 4. I have to pay for it, and I'm debating if I should pay and watch it or not, or keep watching it for free.
Okay, well, there's a debate going on in the athletic department. I don't know if you've watched Buzzerbeater. It's a sports talk show with me and one of your roommates.
Every now and again.
Everyone wants to know who is a better dresser, me or Jake?
Well, I live with Jake, so I've seen all his clothes and all his outfits, but I'll have to give it to you. Maybe you do a much better job dressing.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, Jake is an interesting fellow with his Crocs and white shirts. But all right, on to the next one. This one actually is a little bit, you live with both of these guys, and I'm interested in see what your answer is. In a game of one-on-one, who would win, D
My name is Megan.
or Jake?
On a full-size hoop or on our mini hoop in our house?
Let's go with a full-size hoop.
I give it to my boy D.
Oh, makes sense.
And on the mini hoop?
Jake, mini hoop sometime.
All right, Tanner, thanks for sitting down with us. That's the Seasider Spotlight for this week for Mick Miller and Tanner Nelson.
Mick Miller from half court breaks the defense. Mick Miller, 3 seconds left, jumps to the free throw line. What is he doing?
Cleary gets the ball at the elbow. The game is on the line for the Seaside. He takes a series of moves. He jabs. He puts it up. He blows it.
All right, everybody, get off your Instagram, log out of Netflix, tune in to Buzzerbeater. And that's how you beat the buzzer. Well, Jake, I must say, I think in a game of one-on-one, whether it's an actual hoop or a little hoop, I think you can beat D. And honestly, I've been actually tracking some of the statistics in intramurals. You're actually shooting a higher three-point percentage than D is.
Wow.
Which is, you know,
Shocker.
not
Guess
that
that's not
impressive
very-
because D is shooting like 14%.
Yeah. He's
Love you,
trying
D.
hard. He's trying hard, though.
It's all about trying
Keeps
hard.
his spirits up.
All right. For 6.5 minutes, we're going to talk about one thing and one thing only, and that is Super Bowl 51. There are so many storylines, so many records, so many amazing achievements that happened in this past Super Bowl. Arguably the greatest of all time. It was the Patriots who beat the Falcons in overtime 34-28. Tom Brady winning his 5th Super Bowl, the most ever by a quarterback. Head coach Bill Belichick, 5 Super Bowls as a head coach, the most ever by a head coach. Not only did the Patriots come back, but they came back from a 25-point deficit and scored 19 points in the 4th quarter. At one point, the Falcons were up 28-3. I'm pretty sure half of America turned off the Super Bowl or walked out. I didn't do that. I almost did. I almost did, but I didn't. The largest comeback before that one was 10 points. They came back from 25 down.
Yeah.
What was one thing out of all the things that happened that really stuck out to you about the Super Bowl? And you better not say Lady Gaga's halftime.
No, I won't. Even though that was kind of impressive. But I'm going to have to go with Tom Brady. We debated about this last week, but Tom Brady's performance in that Super Bowl kind of makes it official that he is one of, if not the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Yeah. This, like you said, this Super Bowl will go down as one of the greatest ever. And for me, this was the first Super Bowl I've watched in, almost 3 years. The last one I watched was when the Seahawks blew out the Broncos.
Yeah.
So to watch a Super Bowl like this, it was crazy, and it's going to be hard to top a Super Bowl like this. But I was most impressed with Tom Brady.
Yeah. I mean, first ever Super Bowl that goes to overtime.
Yeah.
pretty amazing. I mean, when it was 21, when the Falcons went up 21-0, I was extremely upset, one, because I had bet on the Patriots, and two, it seemed like this was just going to be, like you said, that Seahawks-Broncos Super Bowl, which was a complete blowout. No one was going to be interested, and then they went up 28-3, and then you're going to tell me that the Patriots are down 19 in the fourth quarter. And not only they were down 19, but on 2 of those drives to tie the game, they had to convert a 2-point conversion because Gostkowski shanked that extra point. And even when that happened, I was like, there's no way that the Patriots can do it. One job. One job only.
Yeah,
all right.
we've talked about that.
Lots of people have been talking about whether the Falcons lost it or if the Patriots won it. One thing I want to talk about right now real quick is the last drive by the Falcons in the regulation in the fourth quarter. Now, with 4 minutes and 38 seconds, I believe, was when Matt Ryan made that incredible pass to Julio Jones, and he was able to get 2 feet in. At that point, the Falcons had the football at the 22-yard line. Now, they had an 8-point lead at that point, so all you really need to do is kick a field goal, and by kicking a field goal, you pretty much ice the game. There's no way, even with Tom Brady, that you can come back from that. 8 points, there's a possibility they can go down, score, and get the 2-point conversion. But what happened after was probably the worst play call other than Pete Carroll not giving the ball to beast mode in the Super Bowl against the Patriots 2 years ago. Dan Quinn decides to run it. Pretty good play call. Devontae Freeman he gets -1 yard. So, okay, it's 2nd and 11.
Yep.
Then Matt Ryan gets sacked. He gets sacked and it pushes him back to the 36-yard line. You're still in field goal range. And then a holding penalty. Kicks you out of field goal range. And now they have to punt the football. That was the biggest mistake I felt in the Falcons game. What else do you think that the Falcons did that cost them the game against the Patriots?
I'm gonna have to repeat what you said with that sack. That holding happens nearly every play. I feel like the refs can kind of choose when they call that one if it's just like an obvious holding. But that sack, Matt Ryan took that sack when he could have thrown it away or tried to get out of there and not go back that far. That really knocked him out of field goal range. And even if they're on the 36-yard line, that's still a long field goal. And so taking that sack was the biggest mistake of the Falcons, which I'm sure they talked about this, but taking that kind of what gave the Patriots hope and gave them life, that kind of gave them the idea like, oh, we can come back after this. So taking that sack. And then the first half, like you said, they got up 21-0. The second half, they kind of slowed up. They didn't go... It didn't seem like they had the fire that they had in the first half.
And they're the most explosive offense during the regular season.
And we saw that in the first half. But in the second half, they kind of got... I think they wanted to try to hold on to their lead, but you can't do that with Tom Brady, and they learned that the hard way. And now they're going to be on the butt of all the... Just like the Warriors, they blew the 3-1 lead. Now it's going to be they blew a 28-3 lead, so...
You just kind of have to shake your head and shrug at it. Okay, so we're covering the Falcons, what the mistakes that they made. What did the Patriots do to win the game? Because in my opinion, there was a lot of things that you could point at. You can point at Tom Brady. You can point at a whole bunch of things in the game. Mine would be the strip sack in I believe it was the 3rd or the 4th quarter when the Patriots, they were pressing on every single play on the defensive end. They were trying to get to Matt Ryan, and that's what they were able to do. They were able to get to him, strip sack, great field possession for the Patriots, and then they score. I think that defensive play was what ignited the comeback for the Patriots. Obviously, in a Super Bowl, you have to make those key plays to come away with the victory. For me, that play by the Patriots is going to go down as one of the most important plays for them to come back. What else did you see from the Patriots that you think that really helped them get that win?
So... A couple years ago against the Patriots, actually, they had the Giants were playing. I can't remember who it was, but they had the catch against the helmet.
Yeah,
and that was
against the Giants in the Super Bowl back in 2007.
That at that time was the greatest catch in Super Bowl history. But now probably the greatest catch ever was Edelman's.
Yeah.
I mean, Julio Jones had a bunch of sick catches, but that was skill. Edelman's was just kind of luck. It was a little bit of skill, but a little bit of luck being at the time. But that will go down as one of the greatest catches in NFL history. And I still can't believe he caught it, but...
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you because at that point, I mean, Tom Brady threw it into triple coverage. There were 3 guys. There was 2 safeties, and then there was a corner who was on Edelman. And if you've watched Edelman, he is not a big guy. He is extremely small. The concentration that he had to do on that catch was absolutely amazing. And, I mean, what can we say more about the Patriots other than probably the greatest dynasty in NFL history? Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback, Bill Belichick. Yeah, I'm going to have to say he's the greatest head coach. We'll take one more commercial break, but when we come back, we've got a new segment on Buzzerbeater for you.
That was an Seasiders for a couple of reasons. One is they played well in the second half. They got the win. They're in the tournament.
BYU Hawaii, number 1 seed all the way, wins the regional title of the NCAA West.
Great win for us. It was a nice win. We held our composure, and I guess we closed out. It's tough to close out in the championship, but we did it.
It's still surreal to me.
It's hard to imagine that Coach Wagner, when he called that timeout with 13 seconds left on the shot clock, was setting up a play for a 40-foot jump shot with 1 second left on the clock. But Pablo hit it.
So long for beautiful Laie, Hawaii.
All right, welcome back into Buzzerbeater. We've been making a couple changes. As you can see, we're no longer at a desk today. We decided to do a little bit different setup, and we're also doing a couple new things on Buzzerbeater as we're ending the last couple shows because my partner over here, Jake McCleary, has decided to take his talents to
Salt Lake.
Utah. But we've got a new segment on Buzzerbeater in which Jake and I will talk about the hottest topics in sports, and we only got a minute to describe what is going on, so we're going to start off now. Jake, Tom Brady.
All right, I talked about Tom Brady the past couple weeks about how great he is. I am not a personal fan. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon, but I will respect him. 7 Super Bowl appearances, 5 Super Bowl wins, and you already said that's the most wins by a single quarterback. And then he's 4th all-time in passing yards, 4th in touchdowns, 4th in pass completions, 4 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 league MVPs, 11 appearances in the AFC Championship game. And the best thing about this is that he's not done.
Yeah.
When his wife asked him if he's ready to retire, he said, no, I'm having too much fun. So he's just going to keep getting better. And Tom Brady, again, I said it before, I'll say it again, he will go down as one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, if not the greatest.
You pretty much said everything that needs to be said. Only thing I would add to it is, like you said, he's not done.
Yeah.
And he won this without Gronk.
Yeah.
So he gets Gronk healthy next year. Watch out, NFL. All right, my topic is going to be the hometown team, the Washington Wizards. They are currently 3rd in the East after starting off to an extremely slow start in which they win 3-8. They currently are 31-21 with a lot of momentum. If you watch the game against the Cavs, the nation was put on notice that the Washington Wizards are back in fold and ready to make some big headlines in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, it's LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers who are always the team to beat in the East. And if you're not on a LeBron James team, you're most likely not going to the finals or winning the Eastern Conference. But however, when the Wizards went against the Cleveland Cavaliers, they went down 140-135, but it was one of the most exciting and one of the most competitive games that we've watched in recent years in the regular season. I think the combination of John Wall and Bradley Beal, the best backcourt in the NBA, if you ask me, both on the offensive end and the defensive end. Not only the hometown team for me, but I believe that the Washington Wizards, if they can continue to remain healthy with the starting 5 that they have and Kelly Oubre and Jason Smith coming off the bench, they can threaten the Cleveland Cavaliers. And sticking with the hometown team, I'm going to talk about John Wall. John Wall, he was put on notice. For many of the first few years of his career, he was plagued by a franchise that ran into a lot of troubles. For example, Gilbert Arenas bringing guns into the locker room. But since then, the Wizards have been able to change how the franchise has been formed around John Wall, adding Bradley Beal into the mix as the faces of the franchise. Now, John Wall, in my opinion, is the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, out west, you've got great point guards like James Harden, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, and Steph Curry. But in the East, as it pertains to being a point guard, John Wall is the best. He eclipses everything that Kyrie Irving can do, except for the clutch factor that Kyrie Irving has an edge on John Wall. But he's averaging career highs in both points and assists. John Wall, he has built the Wizards franchise from the dust that was left by Gilbert Arenas, and now you see the Washington Wizards in 3rd place. And let me just add this. He's coming off of double knee surgery. This summer, he got procedures on both knees. My dad was there for his rehabilitation. It's amazing the stuff that John Wall is doing.
And while I just want to give a quick shout out to Jabari Parker.
Yeah.
Give condolences to Jabari and Terrence Cahill, his biggest fan. Just tore his ACL, so good luck to him. But next topic, we're going to be talking about the NBA in the 90s versus the NBA now. Which one is better and which one is worse? And I was born in 96, so I was born when like Michael Jordan and that era, so I wasn't old enough to know really what was going on, but now I'm just looking at highlights on YouTube and that kind of stuff, or I'll play them as characters in PS2 or some games like that. So I'm not too knowledgeable about the NBA in the 90s, except for the people such as Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Karl Malone, and John Stockton. I know a lot about them because they were the Utah Jazz. And speaking of the home team, I never got to talk about my home team, the Utah Jazz. We'll say that for next week. But the NBA of the 90s, that started off the greatness, and I believe the players now in the NBA are going off what they saw in the players in the 90s and improving. So skill-wise, I believe that the NBA now is better skill-wise than the NBA in the 90s, and that may sound a little biased just because, again, I'm not totally sure about the NBA in the 90s, but I'm going to have to go with the NBA now.
All right, next topic, Isaiah Thomas. What is your opinion of him?
He's a pretty big inspiration, not only to me, but all short people everywhere. You know, he started out, he said one time that he wanted to be the greatest small player in the NBA, but now he's talking bigger. He wants to be one of the greatest players in the NBA, not only small, but of all time. And he's arguably, he's in the MVP talk along with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. He's averaging over nearly 30 points a game. Fourth quarter, if you watch a Celtics game, you know where the ball is going, especially if it's a close game. He leads the NBA in points in the fourth quarter. And so I can definitely see him leading the Celtics to good things in the future.
I'd like to see Isaiah Thomas go against John Wall, two extremely special players. But the one thing about Isaiah Thomas that I find very impressive, the dude is 5'9". I'm taller than Isaiah Thomas. For some reason, I'm sitting here talking about sports, and he's making millions of dollars and getting buckets in the NBA. Sometimes the ball just doesn't land in your court. All right, last thing to talk about before we end Buzzerbeater today. It is UNC versus Duke. The biggest game in college basketball, and in my opinion, the greatest rivalry in college sports. The Tar Heels have a 134-108 advantage over the Duke Blue Devils, and tonight, the number 8 Tar Heels, my team, will go to Durham and play those nasty puke Blue Devils. But let me just say, this is the most storied rivalry in all of college sports. You got Ohio State, Michigan on football, but I believe, just look at the people that came out of these two programs. First of all, the GOAT came out of North Carolina, Michael Jordan. Then you got Christian Laettner. You have all these guys that came out of Duke, and they've been extremely, extremely consistent. You got to tip your hat off to Coach K, Dean Smith, one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Roy Williams, who has cemented himself as one of the best coaches in North Carolina history as well. 5 championships for Duke, 5 championships for North Carolina. These two storied programs will go head-to-head today. Actually, their game just tipped off 3 minutes ago, so I'm going to hurry up and wrap this show up so I can go watch it. The number 8 Tar Heels against the number 18 Blue Devils. I've got UNC over Duke. Jake?
I got Duke, my Blue Devils.
He
It's
just
gonna
does
be
that.
tough,
You just
but
do
I
it
can,
just do it to spite me, don't you?
Yep.
Well, this is the 13th episode of Buzzerbeater. Next week will be 14, and it'll be a very special episode because this guy has decided to bounce on your boy. So it'll be Jake's last show next Thursday at 2:30. Our Seasiders will be in action today. Just our women's basketball team at 5 p.m. at the Canada Activity Center. For Jake McCleary, I'm Mick Miller. Thanks for tuning in to Buzzerbeater, and we'll see you next week.